Um, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Kabamba. Kabamba is my name. I'm
Kabamba.
Yes, once more I'm from Zaire.
Yes.
My question, I have two questions. The first question is, what's the significance and the place of God in this world? The second question is, could we say that in this particular century we have been witnessing a kind of competition between visible man and the invisible God? If yes, who is the referee in this competition? How strong?
Very interesting. I should love to answer these questions one by one.
That's right.
So let's begin with the first one.
Thank you.
Yes, please. Could you repeat the first question now? What is the position of God in this world?
The significance and the place of God in this world. That's right.
No, it all depends upon how you look at things. If there is a God, and the question is put forward by the one who believes in a God, then this question is distorted, because then it should be what is the significance of this world to God, because He is first then and the world is second. If there is a God and a believer asks the same question, he should put it the other way around, because if there is a God, then obviously this world emanates from Him, is created by Him. It is just secondary, nothing as compared to the significance of God Himself. With the result that the question should be that what is the significance of this world to God, and what is the position of this world and place of this world in relationship to God. Am I right? Or you don't follow this?
I follow.
You have understood this?
Yes, I understand the question.
Yes. I mean, the question in that case is wrong. If you begin with the premise that there is a God, begin with the promise, you believe in God and I believe in God. So if the questioner is not an atheist, he believes in God already, so his question should be the other way around. That we know there is God, so what is the significance of this world as compared to in relationship to God? Because then God is the first reality and the world becomes the second reality. You understand this point?
I understand. Yes.
Now, if it is an atheist, then God does not exist, then the question falls out automatically. Then there is no question. If it is an atheist, then he is interested only in a philosophical concept of God in which we are not interested. Then it's only an academic question that why should we befool people with the concept of God and what significance He can play, that imaginary thing. Then this question should be this. And those who believe in God, they are not interested in such a thing. Only those should be interested who are, for instance, big politicians who don't believe in God themselves, but want to create a sort of source of fear and awe for the illiterate people. This question should be asked to them by atheists. That why are you after creating the image of God when it doesn't exist? What is the significance? So because I believe you are a Catholic and you know I am a Muslim, and so this question should be put the other way around. What is the significance of this world to the existence of God which already existed before the world was created? In that case, will you be interested in answering this question in this way?
Because what I want to, the point...
Or the point is different, let me...
That's right, yeah. Because now, when we look at the world as it is now, it's going on now, we really sometimes wonder, where is God and who is He? Though we believe in Him, you see, we believe because it's very difficult to assess oneself if the God we see in our own.
Now this question, in this case,
Yeah.
is quite a different question
That's right.
from the one which the wording suggested.
That's right.
You want to put it in a different way. This is why it's better to analyze the question
That's right.
so that my answer is not off the mark.
That's right.
First I know what the question is, then I will be able to answer it. Not sure. The point is, perhaps, as I have understood now,
That's right.
you want to ask if somebody is in doubt as to the existence of God
Yeah.
and does not positively know because he is unseen. He is not to be witnessed by eyes
Yeah.
or by other four senses. So one is in a position of doubt. So what role this world would play in introducing us to that God, and to what extent that witness would be trustworthy?
That's right.
Is that the right question?
Yeah.
Now, good. See, it's so good to know exactly what the question is. Otherwise, I might have answered you completely differently off the mark.
That's right.
And then at the end, you might have to repeat the question, and still we would be groping in the darkness.
That's right.
Now, this is very interesting because the very first surah of the Holy Quran, the very first chapter of the Holy Quran, deals with this question abundantly and very adequately, as I understand. And that surah is called Surah Fatiha, the opening chapter of the Holy Quran, which comprises 7 lines only. And the very first opening words of that surah deals with this question. That verse is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, the very first introduction of God. All praise be to Allah, who is the creator of all that is known, or all that leads to the unknown. Alam is a very significant and a very beautiful word which has been used here. Alam is generally translated in English as world, as universe. Worlds or universes, because it is used in plural here. But this is a very inadequate translation, because in Arabic what it means is that which is known, number one, and that which leads to the unknown. For instance, there is a mark indicating this road goes to that place. That would be alam, that mark, which leads to a place which we don't know. Through that mark, you are led to the place where you want to go. So, your question falls within the 4 walls of this verse. The significance of this world in this respect would be, number one, that this world does not exist unless known. That is the first declaration. This is most important and a very beautiful, deep scientific declaration in the single word. If you were not here, or let's say if one passes out, a whole world passes out with him. And suppose the entire living beings in the universe suddenly pass out, what would be left? Nothingness. Because what was to be observed is no longer observed. So you can't conceive of anything then.
That's right.
Because you have to know something for it to be there, or even if it exists and so nobody knows, it is as if it does not exist. Yet things exist. Now we know that even all of us had passed out, the reality would continue. But only because there is another one who knows that. That is God. If there were no God either, then it would be total annihilation, and complete destruction of everything that is. So there are two ends to a world, to a thing, to the things which can be observed, which is called alam. One end is looking at it from the creation point of view, from the vantage point of those who are created. And other point is from where God observes His creation. So if we see it, our vision determines what it is. And that thing determines to some extent our vision, controls the concept of our vision. And this relationship is always changing. It is never satisfactory, never final. For instance, the universe which was seen prior to the time of Galileo was a different universe, while in reality it was the same. The universe which is now seen by the highly sophisticated radio telescopes, X-ray telescopes and gamma rays telescopes and all sorts of things, is a completely different universe from the one observed in the early 16th century or the 17th century, say. It was 1610 when Galileo invented his telescope. So that shows that the reality of the thing can only be determined as such if the vision is perfect and the vision is final. If the vision is imperfect and cannot encompass everything and cannot reach deep into the realities of things, then the universe will be a flickering, changing universe. However, sharp one's vision be at one given time. We can claim that now we know the universe because we are at the summit of things. But the fact is that 100 years hence, people will look back at us as we are looking back at Galileo or people before them. So we'll be laughing at the concept. What concept was held by Einstein? The poor thing was quite a good man, of course, a wise man of his time. But of course, after all, he didn't understand things. That sort of attitude. So, from our point of view, the world is unreliable. We don't know what it is. Only it is a temporary reference to this world which we can give according to the sum total of our knowledge. But if alam, as the word is used in this verse, is looked upon from the other angle, which is the Creator's angle, because Creator knows what it is, His knowledge is constant. Whatever change may take place, that is in His knowledge as well. So the only way that the world really truly exists or can exist is from that angle. So one important significance of this world is that it can exist only through knowledge, and it can only exist truly in entirety, in reality, through the knowledge of God if there is a God. If there is no God, then the world is just insignificant and meaningless, because it's a changing reality, we don't know what it is. Now the other thing which the verse tells us is that alam, that is to say the universe, the observed facts, are only indicators. They lead us to the unknown. And this is the significance of the universe. Now, if there is no searching eye, then the significance of the landmark disappears. If there are milestones on a long road and there is no traveler, no one making a journey, then the significance of that landmark disappears completely. So in this sense, the universe was created with the purpose of conscious beings appearing on this earth, capable of taking their lessons from the landmarks. Otherwise it could not be called an alam, an indicator to the unknown. So this also was a design of thing. It was not just accidental. According to the first verse of the Holy Quran, the universe is not an accidental phenomenon. It was designed as such. It was designed that ultimately there would be conscious beings who would draw their lessons from what they observe and would be led to the unknown, that is the Creator. That also throws beautiful light on the question of why we cannot observe God directly with our five senses. If we could directly observe Him with the five senses, He would not be unknown, and this indicator would not be an indicator anymore. You follow the point?
I followed, yes.
You can only reach Him through indications.
Yeah.
That is also declared in the very first verse of the Holy Quran. That God cannot be reached directly through five senses. Only your five senses can reach an indicator, a landmark, and that would lead you, the pointing fingers would lead you to the unknown. You can travel in that direction, but you can travel on and on without ever reaching Him directly. There would be more important indications, still more important ones, clearer to clearer indications, but He would still remain the unknown as far as your limits are concerned. That is the second declaration. So looking at the existence of God from this point of view, let's enter now the field of investigation, what the universe leads us to. The one important thing which has also been mentioned in this verse, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, is this, that whenever you investigate, whatever you investigate, you will come to the conclusion that everything is worthy of praise. There is nothing haphazard. It is orderly and it is beautiful. Hamd means, Alhamdulillah, I'll translate this verse, then you'll understand what I mean. Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah, the God, Rabbil Alameen, who is the Rabb, Lord. It has so many meanings, but I can't enter upon every thread of meaning which is contained in this. But let's confine to the one word, Lord. All praise be to the Lord of the universe. Here again, universe in the sense, the what is known and what leads to the unknown. Which means that observe it from whichever angle you do. As an object of observation in itself, or a leader to the unknown, in both respects you will find it praiseworthy, otherwise the Creator could not be praiseworthy. If the painting is bad, you can't praise the painter. So by praising the painter, it is said the painting is beautiful. You follow that? But painting in itself is not beautiful because the painter is beautiful. This is why you find beauty in the painting. So here the verse praises the painter, that is the Creator, not the creation itself. And through that it is also indicated that a perfect Creator has to create perfectly. Otherwise he would not be a perfect Creator. So if that is found to be true, if it claim holds good, when we begin to study the nature, then not only we arrive at the conclusion that whoever wrote this verse had a perfect knowledge. He knew everything. Also, we reach at the conclusion that there is a creator, there is a positive creator, otherwise it could not be so orderly and perfect, everything. Why should everything be praiseworthy? Why should everything be orderly and in unison with each other if it was not designed? Now, this is exactly what Einstein claims. After studying the whole nature, he comes to the conclusion that he says that all my theories are based on one observation, that this universe is most beautiful, perfectly balanced and orderly, and there is nothing disorderly about it. So every phenomena that is to be observed has to be orderly. So wherever in the study of the previous scientists I did not find order and beauty, I knew there was something wrong with that concept. Because there was nothing wrong with the universe in itself. So my theory was based on a perfect order and beauty. And that is what the universe is, and this is what this verse claims. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So you are led to a God if you look at these things and indicators. Even if you don't look at these things and indicators, just the objects of observation themselves, even then you have to admit that they are praiseworthy. If not the creator, then the things themselves are praiseworthy anyway. But you go further on, and then you will begin to see that each finger is pointing to the creator, the unknown. First of all, look at yourself. Who are you? You are thinking. You have reactions to things, and you know, and highly computerized. Each cell in you is computerized. Each gene in you is highly encoded with the that it requires a design before it is created. Blind progress of wild forces of nature which are dead cannot produce such perfectly orderly things which are so highly complicated that even the most advanced computer scientists cannot still make the very preliminary of the life cells. And that is just a very small, insignificant example in the whole body of a human being. In fact, the very existence of human beings is an indicator, because we are also alam, we are also the indicators, and we are also the one who observe. Otherwise we don't mean anything, isn't it? Right. So if you begin the study with yourself, why not? Instead of going out in the nature and see and study fish and other things, let's study ourselves, because we are the most perfect model. Look at the design of your eyes, for instance. I wonder why the scientists, the medical practitioners and all that, they know all these things, but their praise is limited to the object of their observation. That is missed by them totally, entirely. While it is that which is more important. So study the eye. No scientist on earth has so far been able to explain how eye could be produced through evolution. Because the the eye cannot come into being just as one totality. And brick by brick, it cannot be explained by scientific explanations in any way, any form. Because it was not that the retina appeared by chance, perchance once, and then perchance, an optic nerve was added to the retina, and perchance it so happened that a perfect cell was created for it to focus its light, and perchance rods and cones were added to the retina, and perchance the distance was so perfectly orderly that the image was just sharp enough for it to be read, and perchance a system of pulses was invented through evolution, which first of all encoded the message in the form of electrical pulses, because what you observe is not the picture directly. The retina itself, if it is cut off from that optic nerve, doesn't convey anything to human beings, to the observer, any observer. What is observed is not the picture itself, but a pulse, electrical pulse, which is carried to some other part of the brain, and there again it is decoded. And the picture and the distances and the colors and the impressions and everything is then carried and distributed to many millions of cells of brain for forming their final picture. For instance, now what you are observing here is not just an automatic phenomena of a flat observation as it appears. When you are observing, your eye is automatically turning it into pulses, which pulses are carried through a cord to a brain center, which then redistributes all the information bit by bit to various departments of the brain. And each fraction of a second, hundreds of thousands of pieces of information are collected, and then pulses go back to the same center, and then a picture is created. For instance, when you are seeing things, might be in the remote past you have seen such a thing. If you have, that observation will be analyzed and it will be sent to other departments of the brain, and that department will send you an indicator that I see a child, and there was a child to my sister who was like this, and if that child died early, then your emotional center will be informed. They begin to be sad about it. If that child is the apple of the eye of the parents and is the most beloved child, then your sense of pleasure will be excited. Just the sight of it would remind you that I should be pleased at looking at this child. If somebody's image resembles an enemy's image, whom you hated, those emotions will be excited in you just by looking at the picture. And at one and the same time, you are seeing so many things. Your emotions, your past experiences, your future aspirations, all can be excited in different ways, in different shapes, by just one glance at a thing. And all that is being done in your brain. And yet, the scientists would have it that it is just a long, long evolution of billions of years which has created this orderly thing. Because if it is blind observation, then it should not behave like this. The blind evolution should take a few steps forward and many more steps backwards. Because it's always the guided evolution which continues the journey in one single direction of progress. So evolution it is, no doubt. But from observing ourselves more closely, we come to the conclusion that everything which we are observing is not just the object of observation, but is an indicator. and that indicator is to the unknown. This is exactly what the Holy Quran says in the very first verse, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And we are so overawed with the beauty of what we observe that we have to say Alhamdulillah. All praise be to the Creator who has created such perfect beauty. So this is the significance of this universe. If you take it not just as an observation point, but as a leader to the unknown, you will be led to the unknown.
Thank you very much, Karim. So I may go
Yes,
to the
please,
second
please,
question.
please, please.
The second question was, could we say that in this particular century we have been witnessing a kind of competition between visible man
And invisible
visible
God.
God? That was the first part.
Now, in my opinion, here too, the question
Yeah,
is to be modified slightly,
that's right.
because it is not this particular century,
It's
but in
special.
every century, this is the same thing. This question which you have asked
Yeah.
wants me to answer the significance of a struggle between the visible and the invisible in this particular century. While according to the Holy Quran, this is a constant feature. Go as far back in history as you can. The ratio of the struggle, the constant of the struggle between visible and invisible, or the coefficient would remain the same. It won't change. Even in Pharaoh's time, this is what he said. Where is your God? I don't see anything. Oh Haman, he said, build me a tall tower, and I'll ascend that tower and see if there is any God, as Moses tells me. So as far back as the Pharaoh's time, this relationship between the visible and invisible, this struggle between the visible and the invisible, remain the same.
In this case, I go to the next part of the question because you answered it in a positive way.
Quite right.
Who is the referee in this competition?
Referee, now, a referee can only be the one, a fair referee,
Yeah.
who has a vantage point of absolute reason, who knows the inside out things, and who is competent to judge. Because referee, the concept of referee is timeless and spaceless. It has to be a referee, true referee, I mean, the ideal referee, has to have certain qualities, whatever time of history it be when we search for a referee. Even at the time of Pharaoh again, a referee had to have the same qualities as a referee of today. So a referee should have certain qualities. Otherwise his reference would be wrong, or the answer to what we refer to him would be wrong. And those qualities obviously are that his comprehension should be perfect. At least perfect in the sense that whatever is offered to him for reference, he can fully comprehend that much at least. A football referee would be a different referee, and a referee for other disputes would be a different type of referee. But the basic fundamentals would remain the same, that whatever is referred to him for his judgment, for his final word, he should be capable of understanding that perfectly. He should be a neutral authority. You see? If he is a party, he can't be a referee. Now, in this case, unfortunately, no human being can be a referee anyway. Why? Because, number one, he is not gifted with these qualities, a perfect knowledge of what he is going to judge. He doesn't know the universe itself. How can he conclude from the study of the universe if there is a creator or not? And secondly, he has to be a party. Either he is an atheist or a believer in God. A human being has no third position. Either he believes in God or he does not believe in God. If he believes in God, then he is a referee, a part in favor of that party. If he does not believe, he is a referee in favor of the other party. So the only referee that we can find is a limited referee for ourselves. The referee of our own conscience and our own mental capabilities. That referee can only lead us because we could follow him. It is our internal affair. If we follow him and we are helpless there, we must follow our own referee. We are made like that. But that referee is not binding upon anybody else. That is to say, his judgment is not binding on anybody else. So nobody else can give a reference to that referee. Only we ourselves. And the only perfect referee that can only be God. If the God does not exist, then there is no referee. If he exists, then the only referee is God himself, or those who speak on his behalf, if they claim that we have heard him speak. So then the reference would be changed to a different shape. I mean, a new coloring would be added to this question. Then we will first judge whether what he claims is right or wrong, and how a representative of God should be judged. If we find out a dependable way of judging a representative of God, then he can be a referee to us.
I think that was one of the questions. Yes, how could we trust him? I think you have answered this
already.
Yes, that's right. You have answered it. That's right. Because my problem was, as far as God was invisible, to refer to him is not easy.
So I already told you.
So I think I'm satisfied with the answer. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your fair-mindedness. I think you could be a good referee in this respect. Any other questions?
Yeah, well there are two or three points. Mine aren't questions really, so much as points I wish to raise for discussion, really, for clarification.
You think it can catch the voice?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, please.
The first one is I would like to know the stand of the Ahmadiyya community, really, in relation to these major religions, particularly, of course, Christianity and Islam itself.
That's very good.
Because as a Christian, I have been brought up to understand that Christ, for example, is the Son of God, and the Bible states it clearly that I am the light, the way, and the truth. And you can know and can hope to enter the kingdom of heaven unless it passes through me. But then when you stretch your mind further, you read, as far as the Islamic faith is concerned, you read that actually Christ wasn't, in the first place, the Son of God. He was simply an ordinary prophet of God. And
not an ordinary prophet, but an exalted prophet.
Yes, thank you very much.
Prophet.
And then, but then Muhammad was the next prophet of God, actually, who was to succeed Christ.
I'll explain your question.
Yes.
I'll give the answer to this question First of all, in principle and fundamentally, because once that part is solved, then perhaps the second question will become unnecessary.
Yes.
You see, what is religion itself and how religion is revealed and why, and what is the relationship of the whole of creation to God, the Creator. And did He create human beings so that He could choose some to be made special ones for showing light and reject others who grope their way in the darkness as best as they can? Or it should be a different type of scheme of things. So when you look at the Ahmadiyya point of view, everything falls in step and like a jigsaw puzzle, pieces just fit together in mutual relationship, with the result that a very different concept of religion emerges from the one which has been taught to you from your childhood. Number one, we fully agree with the Christian claim that Jesus Christ was light and way, because every prophet in his time is the light and the way. You can't teach God without going through the door of a prophet, as I explained during one of his questions.
Yes.
You see?
Yeah,
He is the reference point.
that's right.
So every prophet has to be. Otherwise there is no significance of prophethood. Secondly, we believe, as the Holy Quran tells us, that Allah has created all human beings and He has been sending prophets, that is light, to everyone. And Deen, according to the Holy Quran, is the way. And every prophet was given a Deen and a light. So according to the Holy Quran, there is no distinction in this regard. Unfortunately, people of the latter days, or not latter days, but people who followed later on Jesus Christ, peace be upon Him, started emphasizing on this in a different way, giving it a different interpretation for which it was originally used. According to our theory, it does not stand in contradiction with the claims of the rest of the prophets at all. It is in complete harmony, that claim, with the claims of every prophet, or with the objectives of every prophet, we should say. Because some prophets are known to have made bigger claim than this. Because people, when they distorted their religions later on, they began to attribute things to their prophets, with the result that Krishna makes a much bigger claim, and so many other prophets who have been turned into gods themselves, not sons of God, but gods. They have made very tall claims. So you should not judge by claims, because you are so far removed in time from that prophet that it is really very difficult to visualize what actually he said and what actually he meant and what actually he did. First of all, rectify your vision. Don't look at things through a colored eyeglass. First of all, adopt a universal approach to problems. Then, through that principal approach, you can reach any corner of the earth, and your decision will be as much right as it is possible for human beings to reach a right decision. So in this respect, I lay much more stress upon this fundamental question, whether Ahmadiyya philosophy is correct or any other philosophy opposed to this philosophy is correct. And for this, reference can only be given to your own conscience. You will know immediately whether you agree with me or my philosophy or with some other philosophy. Then it will be easier for us to reach conclusions. So Ahmadiyya claim, which of course is based on the Holy Quran, is this: that Allah has never abandoned any people on earth there is not a single people to whom he did not give light, for whom he did not prescribe the way. He did not abandon or desert any region of the earth. Even that is used in the Holy Quran, the word, where Allah did not send His warners to lead them to the right path. And no ummah, that is, no people in any time, were entirely abandoned by God. So if that claim is correct, we don't find this claim of the Holy Bible, New Testament, to be in contradiction with this claim at all. It fits in as a piece, not as a whole. But look at it as a whole, then the whole concept of Allah, God, and the purpose of His creation is totally falsified. A very distorted vision appears before your eyes. Many questions begin to rise, for which your conscience cannot give a satisfactory answer. For instance, if Jesus Christ was the light and the way, without whom God could not be reached, then what will be the long age history of human beings, much larger than we observe after him, is widely open before you. And there we see the prophethood, phenomena of prophethood, or according to Hinduism, a phenomena of godhood, and according to Confucius, a phenomena of wisdom, and according to Buddha, a phenomena of perfect wisdom which you find within you. The only difference between the concept of wisdom of Buddha and Confucius is this, that Confucius it believes in an objective wisdom. The whole of his philosophy is the study and the accurate study of things and reaching the conclusions. The wisdom of Buddha, on the other hand, is a wisdom which you find sinking deep into yourself. And you don't require anything else. Just delve deep into your own nature and forget the whole universe until you have totally lost consciousness of what exists around you. So all this, what is this? It becomes meaningless. If that philosophy is true, the people before become meaningless, the people existing in India and China and other places all lose their meaning, and the whole concept of God loses its meaning. So, without giving reference to your own conscience, if you begin to follow the texts, you will be seeing the text through the colored eye views of your predecessors, those who had their own limited visions, and they have started imposing that vision upon the Bible and upon you. With the result that the moment you see the light of day, that light begins to appear dark, which claims itself to be the light. Because the act of God throws a different light, and the claim of light is completely different in color and hue, and they stand in contradiction to each other. That should not be so. So first rectify your vision of the universe and its existence and its significance, and what should be God's attitude to His people. Why should He choose only the Palestinians? And very small lineage line of those who in history are most often found insignificant and meaningless, looking at it from the secular history. And the rest of the entire world of China, the kingdom of Empire of China and Empire of Eastern Empire of Iran, which was Faris at that time, it was called Faris. Everything, becomes absolutely perplexing and just it loses its meaning and significance altogether. So our philosophy is this, that God has always been giving light to his mankind, and that light has always been in reference to the capability of those people and the stage of their development. It has always been relative. Both the path, that is being, the way, and the light, they have never been absolute. Because despite the fact that God is absolute, the recipients have not been absolute. So those who are not absolute, they cannot conceive what is absolute. Because the giver of light is far greater in grandeur and almost limitless. Or almost, no, definitely limitless. And we are, whatever our position be compared to him, would always remain limited. It is like going to the ocean with a pail for getting water. You may carry a big pail or a small pail. Ocean would fill it to the brim anyway. So the size of the pail is going to determine how much water you get, not the size of the ocean. Not that if you go to the Atlantic Ocean, your pail will be filled half, and if you go to the Pacific, it will be filled full. Even go to the smallest of seas, it can fill the entire pail of the universe and still it won't get exhausted. So this is the relationship between the light of God and the human beings which are recipients of that light. At every age, the measure has been different, but perfection has there been, always, without exception. Because perfection in that sense is in relation to man's maximum ability. He has always been treated with equality with Allah, by Allah, that is, his creator. If your capacity was big, you were given the full measure. If your capacity was small, you were given the full measure. So the equality means full measure. But the quantity would differ, of course, according to your own capacity. So this is how God has been revealing to all the people on earth at different times. This is the first phenomena that we observe. And that is light, and that is the way. Second thing which we observe is this, that the moment the light appears and the way is open, people begin to reject it, or reject them, both the light and the way. In fact, they are one and the same thing. Two words are used for the one single entity, that is, whatever leads to God. So, people reject and become extremely cruel in their treatment of the new truth. They suppress it as best as they can, and they reject it in totality and deride and mock at it and whatever they can. The treatment is most cruel. But once they begin to accept, the pendulum goes to the other side. First of all, a total rejection. They call them subhuman. They don't accept them equal in humanity to begin with. For instance, Christ himself, peace be upon him. They said, look here, you say you are that. What we find you is quite a different thing. We find that you don't have a right to legitimacy. You are an illegitimate son to our information. So you are not even son of man. Why are you claiming to be son of God? That was the outlook of the people of his time. And once they began to believe in him, the other end of the pendulum, they said, no, he was not son of man, he was son of God himself, literally speaking. So this is the same phenomena observed everywhere in the world. Not a jot of change will be observed anywhere. The first phase of total rejection, the second phase of lifting the pollution and preparing oneself for rejecting the second expression of light, the second manifestation of light. Now, in this same phenomena, the seed of rejection of the coming prophet is sown. How? I'll explain. First, because you belong to Christian religion, so you will better understand the whole thing in reference to Christianity itself, obviously. Christ was rejected, as I explained, and as I have told you, he was not accepted as a human being at par with the rest of the human beings. He was said to be something below. So why should they bow their heads to something subhuman? It was a natural probability. If the claim was correct, then the course of action they took was naturally justified. Christ said, you follow me. And they said, look here, you are not even a human being, accepted by society, with full legal human rights, because we see you as illegitimate. So, why should we follow you? That was a very sound reason, if the first claim was correct, which was wrong, of course. Once they began to believe in him, they said, look here, still we don't believe in a human being. We are not bowed to a human being. We are bowed to something who is superhuman, who is above the status of a human being. So their pride is still not injured. They are accepted with this justification that we are not bowed to a man, we are bowed to the Son of God. So because that is imaginary, that lifting of the station from the reality, next time he cannot appear exactly in the same manner. The next time he appears, he would again appear as a man, as a humble one. So enough reasons have been collected already by the followers of Christ to reject him when he next appears. Because the concept of the first Christ has been distorted, he has been raised from his reality to a myth. So the next time when he comes as a reality, not as a myth, because prophets always come as realities, he would be rejected often. They would say, look here, we saw you, believed in you not as a man, as a Son of God. And now you come as a man and tell us that you are the same thing? Go ahead. Do what you please, but we are not going to follow you. So this is the phenomena, in fact, which is common to every religion, every race, and every time. So the second question doesn't arise, if this is...
well, to me, it seems to be quite satisfactory. The other question is quite different, really. It's something... It doesn't have. It does not reflect my own beliefs. It's really a matter of discussion, as I said right from the start. It's the question of humanism as a religion, for instance. Yes, I tend to think. There are those who argue that it would be a far better religion, a far better kind of faith than the rest of the present faiths, as it were. Particularly when since the rest of the faiths are based on the idea of the existence of God, but the argument of humanism seems to be that with the world as it is, with so much suffering, with so much, cruelty of man to man, and so on and so on, a lot of catastrophes in the world, then God there cannot be a God.
Drink or something, you can ask for that. Really tired.
So in this particular.
Would you like to have a cup of tea or coffee or anything, please? Before dinner?
Something cold or hot?
Cold drink? You go back.
I wouldn't mind coffee
Just a moment,
myself.
I'll
I wouldn't mind coffee myself, not really coffee.
Enjoying it.
Oh, lovely. It's lovely.
So that was a very interesting question you were asking.
Yes, I feel I haven't completed it. Yes, that in the sense that the argument seems to be that it would be far better for man to look, to himself. If it's a question of love, then it should be able to do everything to love himself and his fellow man. If it's a question of suffering, then man should suffer in common, together. In that way, there is strength and there is hope, rather than believing in a God who is not, and who is not seen in the first place. In the midst of, constant catastrophes and so sickness and deaths and so on, one person losing his beloved one and so on. What would be the...
I'll explain that. Let him change the set first. This is this is a very good question. I'm really impressed by the quality of the questions you are asking. The standard of intelligence, as indicated by these questions, is definitely higher than the previous groups who have been coming here. There have been some people asking very small questions and this and that, and although I would answer any question, but I should love to answer deeper and wider questions, because I enjoy that much more. I'm very happy to meet you today. All your questions are just wonderful. It's deep and philosophical, and they indicate a thinking mind. So this question is very interesting. But when you begin to analyze this question, unfortunately, it appears that this question is just a wishful thinking on the part of man, who wants to escape the struggle and this nuisance which he finds around him. And just the wish will not serve him. He has to find out a way, with a cool thinking, to get extricated from this situation. This is the same question which was looming large before Buddha when he began to search for an answer. And it was the same question which bothered Confucius. How to avoid this suffering, how to get out of this cycle, vicious cycle of pain and the consequences and then further pain and so on. So this is only a question fundamentally without an answer as yet. It is not an answer in itself. As humanitarianism, whatever you call it, is a question, it's not an answer. Because how to go about it is the answer. And it does not explain how. For instance, when Marx studied this question, his findings were quite different from the findings of some other humanitarians of today. He found, to his utter disappointment, that man is fundamentally an immoral animal. So any concept of morality is going to fail to direct him and control him through morality, because basically he is an immoral animal. So being immoral, you should devise a system for him, an economic system for him, where the question of morality does not arise. He is brought by force of consequence, by force of situation, by compulsion, to a level where there is no up or down. So there is no requirement for morality to keep up and down. He looked at morality as something required to keep the different classes at various levels. That was his concept of religious morality. So he rejected religion, of course, through the same approach, through humanitarian approach, but from quite a different logic. He said that humanitarianism as such cannot exist. Only you have to treat human beings as beastly people who are incapable of refined sentiments for others. Put them in a position where they cannot in any way usurp the right of others and make them helpless. So bring them all to the one common level and that objective would be achieved. So that is also one approach of humanitarianism as Marx saw it. And those who say, but I am not accepting Marx's corollary or his concept of morality and humanism. I am just quoting an example. The present day, the modern view on humanitarianism or humanism is different from that of Marx. They wish that there were no religion, no struggle of ideologies. The basic thing they search for or they yearn for is love for mankind. You realize that you are just one beings. You are equal. Whatever your color, whatever your country, whatever the race or nation you belong to, you should begin to realize that you are fundamentally human beings. And as such you should begin to feel for others and give their dues to them and expect that you will be treated equitably by them in response. If such a society could be created, that would be the utopia the human beings have been struggling to achieve all through the human history. That is, in a nutshell, the concept of humanism. Am I right?
Yeah.
That's right. But how to achieve it? There are very difficult hurdles. First of all, the common origin can be the most important factor in bringing about this sense of oneness with the rest of humanity. Like, for instance, if your children of the same parenthood, the same mother and the same father, that is a situation which is nearest to such human concept as you mentioned. Ideally situated is that position. No better can be achieved when there is no relationship. Can you conceive of a better situation than this?
No, not really.
Obviously not.
It's not easy to conceive of one which has no
Closer to this
precedent.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yet, even that is not possible. Children of the same parenthood behave selfishly to each other.
That's right.
So despite the fact they are conscious of one common origin and they are closest placed to this ideal which the humanists want to achieve, yet they fail to achieve that objective despite being given all the possible advantages that could be given as a start. Why? Because man is also a selfish animal. It is not the religion itself which has caused all that trouble. It is the selfishness of man which has played havoc with the religion. Man is not at the receiving end from religion. It is religion which is at the receiving end, unfortunately. It is always human beings who have distorted the religion And ultimately they say, all right, let's chuck away the religion because it has treated us unequally.
That's right.
Because true religion cannot treat man unequally, as I have explained before in one of your questions.
Yes.
Because true religion emanates from one common creator, like parenthood. If that thought is deeply ingrained in our concept of the universe, then alone we can start from the same platform which was provided to that family. But still that will not be the entire answer. There will still be hurdles. So you have to start your journey from the concept of God, otherwise no humanism can be achieved even imperfectly. You can't run away from this fact. Common origin is highly important. Otherwise, this selfishness will know no bounds. The very first step to limit this selfishness, that is ego of man, is to remind him that you belong to one source and you are not all. There are others belonging to the same source and you are answerable. You can't run away with whatever you please. You have your own limitations. So this is religion. It's impossible to create humanity without religion. This is why when you study the early history of religions, you find that the people at the source were the most human of all the samples that you can study and examine. For example, Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, and his followers appear to you most human. They have achieved that objective which you are striving for through humanism. But they have achieved that objective not through humanism but through religion. So you are comparing humanism with the distorted religion. आपके लिए है, मेरे लिए नहीं पूछा.
This is very interesting.
I have answered this question.
Yes.
I mean, it's a very long question.
I understand you say.
But because you are very intelligent people, so I just go to the nutshell.
Yes, of course it's not an easy question to answer because naturally most answers have to be tentative anyway, as you know, they have to be relative. And probably the last aspect is also related to this one. It's really a question of trying to, you see, related to his first question really, I think in a sense. You see, question of trying to justify the actions of God to man as such, because as you have been saying, God is perfect. He doesn't really need man at all. He created him in the first place. But why should he make man then feel that man has to worship him?
That's very interesting.
Whereas he lacks nothing. Why should he make man feel that he has to worship him, and not only worship him, but he also has to subject him to various forms of suffering, problems and all that.
Also, again, this question pertains to the first question is a part of the
Yes,
question,
it's true.
said, and the answer also belongs to the same verse which I quoted earlier. I gave you the very fundamental fact that a thing which is not known is as if it does not exist. This is the fundamental. Even if there are two possibilities, either that thing is known to himself or is in any way, and unless it is known, it is completely non-existent. For instance, a flower in a desert. If that flower has not attained enough consciousness, according to biologists, to think of its own existence, a flower in the desert is non-existent as far as other observers are concerned. So if that flower is beautiful, it would be a great pity if it is not observed by anyone. Even if it's not visited by insects or butterflies or other animals to make use of that flower, it would be a huge waste. Won't you feel pity for that flower? And now place God in the place of that flower. It's all beautiful. It's the source of all beauty, and yet he is unobserved by others. That is not a good situation. That's a huge waste.
Yes. I get the answer. Yes. You have something else to add? Otherwise, I just a minute. I have again, it's something general. I think you touched upon it. This Marxism. I think in one of his writings, in rejecting the concept of God, he really would like to think that man is matter is actually primary. It's the beginning and the end of everything, and that the man is a highly developed form of matter as such, with his consciousness, and therefore his spirit, his soul, is nothing other than a highly developed form of matter. And therefore one would tend to think that there's nothing beyond matter as such. No, so in that way you can dismiss the idea of God altogether. How would we
you cannot dismiss the possibility of existence of God. What you can dismiss is the need for God, perhaps. So this means this is not a conclusive argument, in fact. If there is matter and a developing matter, why should it negate the possibility of a creator? It does not. Not to me, anyway. It's illogical to believe that because there is a matter in the form of constant development, so it should negate the reality of God or the possibility of existence of God. It does not. In fact, the more development you observe, the more you begin to think of a creator and a designer. So this question does not negate the existence of God. This question can only open up a possibility where we should begin with this claim that there is no God. Then what should be done? He presupposes, in fact, what Marx does is he presupposes that there is no God.
No God, yes.
And when he presupposes it, then he sees that perhaps there is no need of it either. So that is what he wants to say. Because there is no, he doesn't believe in a God, he observes the phenomena as a very short-sighted observer and sees the matter developing by itself. Now, this has two aspects. One, the fact that the matter is developing. That cannot be gainsaid. We all agree with Marx. But to say that it has been developing without an outside agency, this is a claim beyond our observation. Because we don't know. This is why I said Marx presupposes that there is no God. Because if the matter is found to be by a neutral observer in the state of constant development, there are two possibilities which open up to mind. One, that matter was developing by itself, and the second, that somebody else was responsible for all this development. Just the two possibilities, because when you see the Rolling Stones, both these two possibilities appear to you even then. That stone could have been unhinged from its mooring by an earthquake to begin with, of course. There was a cause. But from then on, it appears to be rolling by itself. No human hand is required, obviously. But it could be that somebody has thrown it. So how can you obviate that other possibility? Unless you presuppose it. Follow? This is exactly the fallacy of Marx's principle. To observe the phenomena of matter development is okay. Matter is development. But to obviate the other possibility, that it was developed consciously by a conscious being outside the matter, that is where Marx has gone wrong. Not to give us a chance of considering that possibility.
Possibility, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed.